Let's go on a hike together and talk about the subconscious. It's a little windy out here in Norway, but I thought it would be a great time to chat about the truth of what the subconscious actually is. So last night I did an event with my fiance, who is also a hypnotist, and I gave an example of what the subconscious really is like. And I compared it to a basement in a house, and that the conscious mind is really like that first floor of the house. It's the first 5% of your house. And I want you to imagine that this house has a humongous basement. And basically, your entire life, you are putting storage boxes of memories, of trauma, of fear, of emotions, of things that you don't really want to look at, things that tend to hide in the dark. And this is why many people never go into their basement. This is why many people are afraid of going into their subconscious, because they feel that there are many things down there that they don't want to see, that they don't want to look at. But the thing is, when you spend your whole life putting storage boxes in your basement, eventually it starts to overflow. And eventually, those boxes start to come into your first floor of your house. And the thing is, it's as if those boxes just continue to add up until your house looks like a hoarder's house. Now, hear me out. I know you've probably seen on those hoarder TV shows where they're walking through these narrow lanes in their house and calling it normal. And that's what happens when you don't make the unconscious conscious, because you start to just say, oh, it's just my personality. This is why I get triggered. It's just who I am. But really, it's the boxes that have overflowed from your subconscious into that first level of your conscious mind. And they've made your pathways in your conscious mind narrower and narrower until you can't even move around, until you can't see outside of this narrow window of perception. Because your entire perception of the world, yourself, and others is completely coming from your subconscious. Why is that? Because if you can imagine that the past memories, the past experiences, the good things, the bad things, the hard things are still lurking in your subconscious, whenever something in your conscious reality triggers what's lurking in the basement, it makes the reaction and the triggers feel 1,000 times more intense. And why is that? Because deep within you, there are multiple versions of you. There are many different parts of you that are basically frozen in time. So say you could look into your basement, and there's a box from 1999 when you were 5 years old. And when you open that box, there is a memory of when you were 5 years old and your younger sibling was born, and you felt completely alone and scared because your parents were busy with your younger sibling and their attention was no longer on you. And you open that box and you start to connect the dots to your own life, to your current reality, where whenever someone new comes into your group of friends, you feel threatened. Or for some reason, whenever someone's attention isn't on you, you feel like they've abandoned you. But when you open that box and see that 5-year-old you inside and recognize what they were going through was real for them, and it's never gone away because it was stored in your basement of your subconscious, then you start to realize that the keys to overcoming the triggers, the pain, the emotional hurt that isn't being inflicted on you, but that you are inflicting upon yourself because you are seeing your reality through the lens of that 5-year-old in the basement of your subconscious, you start to realize, oh, maybe I need to connect with this 5-year-old part of me and help them to recognize that I'm no longer stuck in that situation. Because for however many years since you were 5 years old, that 5-year-old has thought that you were frozen in time. They thought that you were still 5 years old, feeling alone, feeling left out, worrying about whether your parents would give you attention. And so when you recognize that your subconscious holds the keys to your kingdom, holds the keys to understanding yourself, holding the keys to basically untriggering you, making you much less reactive, it's no longer so scary. Because so many of us are terrified of going into the dark, terrified of turning on the light on things that have remained hidden for many years, right? And yes, I am actually hiking right now. But when you start to recognize that there's no monsters in the basement, that the only thing that's hiding in your basement of your subconscious is just you. It's just pieces and parts and versions of you that have held on to stories and experiences that they thought were making them who they are, that they thought were truth instead of illusion. But once you start to recognize that these parts, actually this entire time that have been hiding down there, have been staying there because they thought they were important to protect you from what they went through. Because going back to that 5-year-old who felt like they were not loved anymore, not seen because they had a little sibling born, that little version of you for the rest of your life would look for situations that were similar to that experience so that you wouldn't have to go through that pain and that feeling of aloneness again. And when it did see those types of experiences, it would sound all of the alarms and you would feel super triggered. And you would be like, okay, why is this so triggering to me? You know, it's really, I know it's not a big deal, but it feels like it's threatening to me. And so the key is to help that younger version of you to understand that we're no longer in that situation. We are safe now. The current self is safe. And this 5-year-old you doesn't have to live in this box of fear and the need to protect you anymore. And once you start to recognize that, once you start to actually embrace that and allow this part to heal, allow this part to recognize that it doesn't have to be on alarm anymore, that's when multiple boxes, not just that one box from that 5-year-old, but multiple boxes in your subconscious start to dissolve and reorganize into a much more expansive, much more open, much more alive and joyful space. It's as if someone has come in and, helped you unclutter some of that top level of your house. Yes, there's probably still some other boxes in your basement, but you're no longer having to live within tight quarters within your mind, within your conscious first level of your house. And once you start to open even just a little bit more space in your mind and your conscious level, that's when you start to recognize that You could never have solved it if all you did your entire life was try to just move boxes around and reorganize them on the first level. You start to recognize that to actually start to gain freedom and space in your mind, you have to go into the basement. You have to go into the subconscious. So if this video found you today, I know it found you for a reason, and I know that you're ready to hear this and you're ready to apply this to your own life. And if you feel called to learning more or understanding this deeper, subscribe and follow along as I release more and more videos that will help you to unlock the real you. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will let you go as I hike back to my cabin in Norway. It's getting pretty chilly out here, but I thought you guys would probably enjoy this view as much as I am. Thanks for watching.